So we're going to do a couple of things. First, we're going to enforce the law. And that is what we're doing. It is not an easy task to communicate this, because there are vested interests who want to turn this into a political issue for their political benefit. There must never be any political compromise about the rule of law. For decades we have been winking and being duplicitous and equivocal about the enforcement of the rule of law. And that is why we are where we are today. My job as your Prime Minister, I've passed the stage of trying to, or needing to win political popularity and favor. Doesn't matter to me anymore. I have to start to think about legacy. What will Jamaica be? Will it be the same as I came and saw it? I can't let Jamaica be the same as I came and saw it.
The kind of crime that we are facing, it's not just random, arbitrary street-level crime. There is intelligence behind criminality in Jamaica, meaning that there are criminals who sit down and plan and organize. Whenever there are criticisms leveled at the government strategy, the alternative is to say, we need more police, we need more soldiers, we need more boots on the ground. There has never been more boots on the ground in law enforcement in Jamaica than there is today. Never. This administration has done it. When we took over the administration of this country, the JDF was about 4,000 strong. Today, the JDF is close to 8, and the objective is to get it up to about 10. We have expanded the manpower of law enforcement. What I'm particularly proud of on the Plan Secure Jamaica is the improvements that have been done to the infrastructure. Now, the JDF, I'm not going to say too much on the JDF. They have gotten their fair share.
There are over 7,000 men and women in the Jamaica Defense Force who come from communities just like yours, and they want to know that their families are safe when they are working to protect you.
Under that arrangement was for the police numbers to increase over the next 2 years by 3,000, up to 14,000 plus.
The government has spent on average $9.7 billion on capital investments in national security over the last 8 years since 2016, compared with approximately $3.2 billion over the 8-year period prior to 2016. We have invested 3 times as much in security than any previous administration. Madam Speaker, we can report significant progress in the build-out of our security forces. The JCF of today is not the same JCF of 10 years ago. So, Madam Speaker, I wish to commend the Commissioner of Police and thank the hard-working men and women of the JCF for their committed effort and dedicated service to the country. Madam Speaker, I'll say a few words about the JDF as Minister of Defense and Chairman of the National Security Council. The JDF is critical to all lines of effort in Plan Secure Jamaica. You know, Madam Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition spoke about the militarization of our security forces. By the way, it's the same Leader of the Opposition who calls for more boots on the ground. If there is ever any problem in his constituency, which we have similar constituencies, the call is more boots on the ground. However, Madam Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition pointed out that we have made massive investments in the JDF. Madam Speaker, it is a lack of understanding of how we must build these institutions. They are not just there to fight crime. Security is not just about crime. Security is about resilience. It's about recovery. It's about protecting your environmental assets. It's about protecting your borders, protecting your fisheries. And to do that, you need institutions like the JDF and the JCF with the resources and the capacity to be able to respond. They never had it before. When we took over, they didn't even have 2 good offshore patrol vessels. There was just fishing in our waters and our fishermen can't get anything. All kinds of drugs passing through our waters. Guns coming in. And that's why we build the capacity to be able to respond. So, Madam Speaker, let us not pour cold water on the investment in the JDF. When the times get difficult, you need that capacity to respond. So, Madam Speaker, the JDF continues to support the JCF in security operations generally and within zones of special operations, and along with the efforts of the Joint Anti-Gang Task Force, Madam Speaker, the Jamaica National Service Corps, a program that is dear to my heart, remains one of our most critical post-school efforts for youth engagement. To date, 5,242 Jamaican youth have been trained through the JNSC. 3,447 have transitioned into the regular branch of service of the JDF. In a quick summary, Madam Speaker, Jamaica recorded 63 murders in 1962. But violence has always been a part of our history of enslavement and colonialism. As we emerge as an independent nation, struggling to build our economy and overcome poverty and social inequality, violence became a pronounced feature of our social struggle through the use of politically organized and related violence. The association with violence, with politics, in some ways, legitimize the producers of violence. The association with politicians legitimize violence producers. Though our politics eventually matured away from using violence, by then violence generally and organized violence in particular had become an aggravating feature of crime. Madam Speaker, I want to pause at this point. We have had success in treating with violence before. It happened when there was consensus, when we agreed that we could not allow the electoral system to be infiltrated and influenced by violence. And we agreed to form the Electoral Commission. We can do it. We can do it. Think about it. Elections from 72, 76, 80, well, 83, but 89, and into the 90s, they were violent. But we changed it. I offer, again, my hand in consensus. We have to come to a consensus on how to treat with violence. By the 1990s, organized intentional fatal violence, which is gang-related murders mostly, escalated as gangs started to use violence in furtherance of the regional narcotics trade. By 2005, 43 years after independence, when we only had 63 murders, Jamaica recorded its highest murder tally of 1,647. Violence as a social disease and a behavioral problem has become a public health crisis of epidemic proportions. On top of this social context, violence is now a dominant feature of crime, particularly fatal violence organized by gangs in furtherance of their criminal enterprise. Both streams of violence have devastating impact on the quality of life and security of the citizens. However, violence in its organized form, pursuing criminal enterprises, be it drug trade, lottery scamming, extortion, human trafficking, guns trafficking, counterfeit goods, cyber crimes, or turf war, is now at a level where it is a threat to the effective functioning of the state. By any definition, the current situation is not acceptable in a free and democratic country and can only be described as a state of emergency. Madam Speaker, this administration has seen the problem for what it is and has implemented a comprehensive program of policy and legislative reform, institutional building and governance, increased investment in infrastructure and capacity, along with more tactile responses of increased policing and use of emergency powers. What has taken 60 years to manifest will not be corrected overnight, and we understand that it is a process. Just as we overcame violence as a feature of our politics by pursuing electoral reform and building institutions of the ECJ and making the budget allocations to fund it, similarly, I am confident that with the reforms, the institution building and funding that we have dedicated, we will overcome social violence and organized violence and crime. We will restore Jamaica to the peaceful, respectful, loving, civil, and pro-social values we embraced in 1962 as an independent nation. Madam Speaker, I am committed to this.
Come on, reverse one.
Get up! Get up, I'm going to leave, come on! Get shot! Oh my God! Drive! Yo, why next one then? Why next one?
Interesting overview, Prime Minister, of one of the most critical challenges facing the country. But I put to you what your critics say. They say you promised the country safety and security when seeking office, and that you are failing to deliver. And I suppose the more direct question is, what do you say to the men and women in tough communities across the country who have to be ducking gunshots and they live in fear literally every second that they could die?
Right. So, without question, that was not a promise, that was a commitment. And we remain absolutely committed to that.
yourself, Kings.
Come on, reverse man.
Get up! Get up, I'm going to leave, come on! Get shot! Oh my God! Drive!
Yo, why next one there? Why next one? Mowgli, shoot up 90 years.
Soldier in a place and it's a gun. A soldier there, him a soldier and war a gun in a place and soldier there. All them slackness here. This anti-wellness a keep up. This anti-wellness a keep up. War a gun. This anti-wellness a keep up. This anti-wellness a keep up, brother.
Hey, yo!
I come from over clinic with my last child, my child, a 4-year-old. And get one dentist here with the cleaning teeth. Them said, nah, go do it again. So we come back over. By the time I come over with the two of them, my stepson, I hear cry some say, well, them say soldier. Well, we look, and one worry for them no police, be a soldier. That sure say them come for kill.
What time?
About half an hour ago. And them just do the same. All of who them take is not no 22. One of them just 22. They under 22 and then. While Kuba just out school, much more subject just out Calabar. Them going in and beating them, jumping and especially big man soldier. Me I thought right time I come downstairs and murder that mistake. Blood up with the two of them head, some of us start hold them. The girl, the soldier girl, grab me by my pants. And they move on that stuff. And the one of them start, so the one of them shoot me down. Chip up. I do them not just that. And the beat, the two better them in front of me. 13-year-old upstairs. She live around your son. All of them shit. I need to take at the house a while ago. And the gun shot them a fire, she don't go left or right. If the tell her to go left or right, she don't go left or right. I never asked to bring her.
How old is the child?
She's 2. She's 2. To the baby upstairs there. She not got her clothes. And at the yard she did a while ago. She don't know where to go. Right here. She had 2-year-old. A 2-year-old. You have water. I think you have water. I'm going to have one kill me. You have a body. You have a body. Oh, this is going to beat him up.
And I think everyone who wears a uniform and is under oath to serve and protect must understand that directive of the government. We must be serving and protecting our citizens. You can have confidence in your state. So I don't think the public questions whether or not the government has placed the resources into the fight against crime and creating the national security cover for the country. And that was done under Plan Secure Jamaica. The criminals have built up capacity in firearms, in organization of gangs, in control of communities, and in the financial resources, the means to commit crime in some areas of Jamaica in an almost unchallenged way. And the crime, as I've said on many occasions, it is over and above, not the capacity of the police. That's not the accurate term. It is over and above what policing is designed to address.
Come on, first one.
Get up! Get up, I'm going to leave, huh? get shot. Oh my God. Drive.
In other words, if this level of crime existed in any other society, the police in those societies would have a challenge. Because what we are seeing borders on terrorism. What we are seeing is a deliberate attempt to drive fear into the population, deliberate attempts to undermine the state, to corrupt the state. And, you know, it is interesting that a part of the testimony that came out in some of the trials of the gangs is that the gang leader saw the murder rate going down and gave instructions that they must increase the rate, they must go and kill more people. So there is intelligence behind the criminal activity that is taking place. So the regular law enforcement methods are not going to immediately bring down the level of crime. So
whenever there are criticisms leveled at the government strategy, the alternative is to say, we need more police, we need more soldiers, we need more boots on the ground. There has never been more boots on the ground in law enforcement in Jamaica than there is today. Never. This administration has done it. When we took over the administration of this country, the JDF was about 4,000 strong. Today the JDF is close to 8. And the objective is to get it up to about 10. We have expanded the manpower of law enforcement. What I'm particularly proud of on the Plan Secure Jamaica is the improvements that have been done to the infrastructure. Now, the JDF, I'm not going to say too much on the JDF. They have gotten their fair share.
There are over 7,000 men and women in the Jamaica Defence Force who come from communities just like yours.
Police numbers to increase over the next 2 years by 3,000, up to 14,000 plus.
There are over 7,000 men and women in the Jamaica Defence Force.
And you have over 100 gangs operating. So we are investing in regular policing in order to maintain public order. So I want the country to understand that we are not saying that regular policing can't work. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that regular policing is designed to address a certain type and nature of criminal activity. But when the criminal activity that we have now reaches to the point where it could threaten the very existence of the state, it requires a different response from the state. It requires the state to arrange its resources and strategies in a different way in order to address that threat that is diminishing the assurance to the citizen that they would be able to enjoy their life and freedom and their assets.
get itself things.
Come on, first one.
Get up! Get up, I'm going to leave, come on! Get shot! Oh my God! Drive!
Over 7,000 men and women in the Jamaica Defense Force who...
And I'm saying that that arrangement requires certain powers to be given to the state.